Hi viewers, let's see the app we are going to develop in the next couple of lessons. The app is connected to the Firebase database, right? And you will see there's a main menu where you got employee options and listing all employees. This table view controller we have put here, right? And when you click on employee details, you will be taken to a page where you can add, insert, search, delete employee data, right? So let us say in this Firebase database, you can see in the background, let's say I want to search for records and delete them, right? So let's say I select one and search. You can see it loads the data from the database. And let's say if I delete it, right, it deletes the data from the Firebase real-time database. That's awesome, right? So let's start. Let's say if you want to insert a new record, right? So you can say employee number one, let's say Anne, right? And let's say a salary of 50,000, right? And let's say Anne is from Melbourne, right? Awesome, right? If you click save, you can see it real time updates a Firebase database. That's wonderful, right? That's about search and delete. And let's say if you want to change the salary of J, right? So you say you can search for J first using the app, right? Let's say you search and it says salary of J is 30,000. Let's say you want to make it to 40,000, right? Let's say you're going to make it, change it to 40,000 and just click save, right? You will see that it gets updated in the real-time database. That's awesome. That's wonderful. So save, delete, search functions are working. Not only that, you can just go and change a few stuff. Let's see. Awesome. So then once you are done with that, you can swipe it and list all the employees, right? That's another feature of the app we are going to develop. So you can see the data. Say, let's say you got 1, 2, 4, right? So let's say see one Peter, Anne, and Jay is there. Let's swipe this down and let's insert a new record, right? Let's say we insert record number 3. Let's put some sample data here. Okay, so let's save the data for Frank, right? Awesome. And now if you swipe down and if you go and check the list of employees, you can see Frank is there. That's an awesome feature of this app, right? And there's another nice thing of this app, right? Another awesome feature. So if multiple users, just assume if multiple users are viewing this app, right? The app you are going to develop has real-time synchronization features, right? Just assume these are 2 users using the app, right? And if one user add a new employee, let us say a new employee record, let's go to the bottom, say employee record 5, let me put the data first. So just assume if one user save, see what will happen to the other user phone, right? So if I click save Mary's details, awesome. See, the database got updated and on real-time synchronization, the next user will see the data being inserted, right? So that is an awesome feature of this app you are going to develop. But it's very important that you have to make sure to look at the next couple of lectures in Firebase database programming, that is part 2, part 3, until we complete this app. It explains all the theory and the practical knowledge which you need to know about developing this app, right? Okay friends, we are very excited to show you how to develop this app practically, and let's do it now. Okay viewers, so the following is the outcome of this part of the lesson. When you complete this part of the lesson, your app will look like this. Until you complete the other parts of the lesson, it will display the list of employees from your database. Say we got a database with list of employees, it's going to display the list of employees from your database and it's dynamically getting updated. When you change the data in the database, this will get updated, right? So the real-time data synchronization will be happening in the running app. It's already there, but for me to demonstrate it, I will be using the next lesson, right? So just wait until the next lesson to see that as well. Okay, let's see how to do it now. But after you complete this lesson, make sure to look at the next lessons in order to complete the full app demonstrated earlier. Hi viewers. So the lesson is Firebase Database Programming Part 7 and we are very excited to take you into this lesson. Let's see what's inside this. Tools use Xcode version 11.4.1 and Apple Developer Docs. Prerequisite, you have to look at the following previous lessons on Firebase and table views in Objective-C in this series: Firebase Database Programming Part 1 to 6 and Database Static, Table View Static and Dynamic Content, and have a look at some of our previous videos in this series as well. In this lesson, you will learn searching and listing all the data in a UITableViewController, and you will see how the real-time data synchronization of of data in running apps will happen, right? So real-time data synchronization happening in running apps. Then we'll discuss more API classes, FIR data snapshot, and especially observe event type method. Lesson plan, we are going to do practical demonstrations. Okay viewers, let's go and start it practically. So this is the continuation of the previous lesson, so make sure you have look at that before this. So in the previous lesson, what we have done up to that is, now we have an app where we can save, delete, search and clear data in our Firebase real-time database, right? So what we are going to do now is to search or query all the data and display in a table view controller. So for that, first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my main storyboard, right? And I'm going to add a table view controller. So if you are new to table view controllers, please look at the table view controllers lecture series, right? Inside this series, right? So look at those previous lessons, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a table view controller, right? So we have done that lesson earlier, right? So you know it, right? So we add a table view, this one we have done table view controller. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, because I want to run this and test this, I'm going to make that as the initial view controller, right? So in the property inspector, I'm going to make that as the initial view controller. So now what will happen is if I run this, it will show me empty table view controller instead of that previous screen, right? So, and then we will keep on adding data onto this. Awesome. So you can see an empty table view controller. So now we need to add the class to write the events for this, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the project, right? Right click, new file, Cocoa Touch class, next, right? So this time, yeah, of course, a child of UITableViewController. So we'll say table view controller. We'll say list all employees. That's the task I want to get done, right? So I'm making it to list all the employees, right? Let's say next, right? And let's create it, right? Awesome, it got created. And the first thing I'm going to do is, what you have to do is you have to go to the storyboard, right? And then you have to click on your table view controller, right? Click on it, and then you have to go to the what you call identity inspector, right? And you have to attach that class just now you created, right? That class into this. That means table view controller list all employees. I just copied the name of that class and pasted it here. Then I'm going to put it as a storyboard ID, and I'm going to tick it as the registration ID as well, right? Awesome. Very important. Don't forget to do that step, right? Awesome. Now let's see what's next. Let's run and see whether that assigning that class whether it's giving us any problems. Awesome. So it runs and no problems, right? So that's all good, right? Let's see what's next. So you can see there are some warnings. It says prototype table cells must have reuse identifiers. So you know what this warning is, right? Reuse identifiers. That means you have to go to the main storyboard and you have to click on the cell, right? And then we have done this in our previous lessons under table view controllers. Look at that, right? So what you have to do is you have to give an identifier, right? So I'm going to give it as a simple identifier. I'm going to call it as simple identifier 1. Okay, I have given it as simple identifier 1 because we need to use it, right? And we'll see what were the other issues, right? Also it says a couple of errors are here. Meaning warnings. Yeah, we'll see what are these. Okay, those will go away when we continue. So now the next thing is, now you got a table view controller, right? The few important things is you will be setting certain things such as the style, right? You remember, let's put right detail, right? Something like that. And then let's put some accessories, right? Let's say disclosure indicator, right? Just some styling. And also let's say I want to, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to display a list of employees, right? So I would like to I'm going to add an image as well, right? So I'm going to check what the images are, right? I got this, I got a couple of menu options. I'm going to add one more image. So let me add some images. Make sure you add some suitable images, right? So go into downloads and add some images. Okay, and then into this cell, let's also add an image, right? So let's add and keep this, right? Awesome, right? So now we got something basic. Let's run and see whether it at least gives us something, or let's see what's happening, right? So I still don't see anything because it's a dynamic table view, right? So with dynamic content, so I have to go and now do the next thing. Let's go and do the next few things. So the next thing is for you to go into the table view controller, the file, right? .m, right? And let's at least start doing something with this. Let's say, okay, we got, just I need to see whether it works, right? So let's say at least, okay, let's say we got one section, right? Okay, one section, and then the number, the number of rows. Let's see whether it's working. Say, let's say one row, right, for example. And then the cell forward index path is where you give the value of the cell. So let's put some sample data and the reusable identifier, right? So we got a reusable identifier which I created a little while ago. So let's create a string for it, right? And then I'm going to put that here as a reusable identifier, right? And then I need to create a cell, right? So let's put some sample data for a sample cell. So I just set the cell.textLabel.text is test data. So I got one section and one row and one data item. Also I want to put like a section title. So you will, if you search table view section, right? Section, right? So if you search this, you will find a method, right? If you type section here, you will see the method title for header in section, right? So I just want to give a title for that part, right? So be careful if you see it gave mistakes. So I'll type title once again, title for header in section, right? So if you get it, yes, awesome, right? And then make sure to return some title, because I got only one section. I can hard code the title and say, I can say list of employees, right? So it gives like a header for that section, right? Let's run and see whether we are getting one section with one cell and with some sample data and with a name for that section, right? Sample data should be test data, right? So let's see whether that part works, right? See, it works. So I got list of employees because I gave the title for the header section, and then I got the sample test data, right? Now what I want to do is, instead of showing test data, I want to load all the data from my Firebase real-time database, and then I want to display them in my table view controller, right? So let's do it now. So now, as you know, in order to do that, what you need to have is, you need to have the data source for the table view, right? So for that, you have to create like a NS array or NS dictionary, right? In this case, we are going to create a NS mutable dictionary. That is because what we want to do is, after we load the data, we also want to delete the data, right? Dynamically. So because we want to change the data, it should be, the data source should be a NS mutable dictionary. Now let's start adding that NS mutable dictionary, and then let's connect to the database and read the data. And then so the plan is this: we are going to create a NS mutable dictionary, and then we are going to connect to the Firebase real-time database, and then we'll be reading the data, and then we will the data we are reading, we are going to put to that NS mutable dictionary, and then we will populate the table view with that NS mutable dictionary. So let's do it now. So in my table view control list of employees.h, right, I'm going to create a instance variable. I put curly brackets, and I'm going to create a NS mutable dictionary object. Then I'm going to initialize this next. So now I went to the, I'm in the .m file, right? And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to allocate memory and initialize with initial capacity of 5 the NS mutable dictionary. So now I got NS mutable dictionary. First step done. Second step, now I have to connect to the database. So let's now connect to the database. So as you know by now, before you look at the previous lessons, we need to have a property connect, giving reference to the database, right? And then we have to import the module Firebase database module, right? We have to import the relevant modules. And the next step is to initialize this reference. Let's do it now. So let's go to the .m file and initialize the initialize this reference, right? So let's put it here, right? So okay, now we initialize the reference. Now we got connected to the database, right? So what's next? Now from the database we need to read the data, right? So what is the method we have to use to read the data? So if you look at the lesson plan today, we said in the FIR data snapshot, observe event type method. Well, you did something similar when you all did the search button, right? So in the main storyboard, when we did the search button, we use a similar code, right? Similar method, right? So if I take you to that method, look at the search method. In the search method, when we did the search method in the previous lessons, right? See, we wrote a method called observe single event of type, right? So this is how we selected the data, right? So we have to use a similar method to, because when I'm displaying all the data, I have to select the data from the database. So we have already done selecting data for the search button, right? See, we are selecting the data. So I have to use a similar method. So what's the method? If you look at the API, right? If we go to a FIRE database reference, okay, see, now the method we used here is observe single event of type in the FIRE database reference, right? So observe single event of type with block, right? Observe single event of type with block. So you remember in our previous lessons, right? We explained that this reads data only once. But now in my example, right, I need to read data multiple times. What do I mean by that? What I mean is, like, if this is the list view, right? In our list view, once I read the data, let us say the user is keeping this page open, and let us say another user inserts new employees, then I want this table view to automatically refresh with the new data. That means if multiple users, so after you create this app, let us say multiple users are using this. Let us say one user is in this screen. Let us say another user inserts a new employee. I want when another user inserts a new employee, I want the other user to see that automatically. That means I want this table view to dynamically get refreshed. That means I want to read data multiple times. So to read data multiple times, if you have to read data once, it's observe single event of type, right? But if you want to read multiple times automatically, meaning you just write it and keep, but it reads data multiple times, meaning it reads data whenever there's a data change happening in the database. So if a data changes in the database, this will automatically read the data. That is this method, observe event type, right? Observe event type with block. Now this one was observe single event of type. This one is observe event type with block, right? So let's use this method, observe event type with block, right? Let's click on that and let's see how it works, right? So this is signature of the method, right? So and if you remember, when we were looking at reading and writing data in the Firebase developer guides, even over there it said, and you remember we discussed this in a previous lesson, listen for event values. See, it said you can use, right, observe event type, right, to read multiple uh, data values, right? But because see, if you want to read only once, you just use observe single event. But if you want the behavior I said to happen, this is the method, right? So I'm going to copy this from here, from the developer guides, and I'm going to use this method in my code, right? So where do I want to use it is in my TableViewController.m. Soon after I connect to the database, right, I want this code to get executed, right? So I just copied that over here. But the ref handler, what is this ref handler? So my ref handler is my database reference, right? So it's, in my case, it's the self.ref part, right? So self.ref, because in my case, my database is ref. So instead of ref handler, I will say self.ref, right? Okay, right? So now let's look at the remaining errors. Now let me do a small change, viewers. Now in this, if I copy this, it's not referring to my parent document and it's not referring to my child. But you remember in the previous one of the previous exercise, when we use the observe single event of type we referred. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this and just change this one. Instead of observe single event of type, I'm going to say observe event type, right? So that's what I'm going to do, right? Let's do it now. So let me copy this part. But something very important, after I copy this, I'm going to delete this with cancel block. I will explain it to you why, right? So let me copy it first, right? And then let me go into this, right? And let me see, this is the code, right? Now a couple of things, right? Instead of observe single event of type, I said I'm going to read my, so it's observe event type, right? So that is something important, right? One thing. Then the second thing is you should not say with cancel block, because you don't want to cancel this block, you want it to read multiple times, right? But when you're deleting, you have to be very careful. Delete from, because this block starts here and finishes here, right? So you have to carefully delete from here to here, because you don't want a cancel block, because you want this data to be read multiple times, right? So keep that in mind, right? Very important, right? Awesome, right? And then the user ID, right? Let's see, let's do the rest of the changes.